In an alternate Star Wars timeline, Anakin Skywalker, newly christened as Darth Vader, faces off against Grandmaster Yoda during the Jedi Purge. Instead of battling Obi-Wan on Mustafar, he engages in a brutal duel with Yoda and emerges victorious. This event drastically alters the fate of the galaxy. What if Anakin Skywalker killed Yoda? It began in the burning ruins of the Jedi Temple. As the smoke curled into the sky, Anakin Skywalker, no longer the chosen one, but now the apprentice of Darth Sidious, marched through the ashes with cold purpose. The temple was silent, but not empty. Yoda stood at its heart, still and solemn, his eyes fixed on Anakin with deep sorrow. There were no words, only the hum of lightsabers igniting. Blue and green met in a clash of fate. Yoda flipped and spun with masterful precision, decades of wisdom guiding every move. But Anakin was relentless. Fueled by betrayal, fear, and the promise of power, he struck with the fury of the dark side. Statues shattered, walls cracked. Time seemed to slow as their battle raged through the once sacred halls of the Jedi Order. Yoda fought with everything he had. The weight of centuries of Jedi teachings pressed into his every strike. But Anakin, he had changed. He was no longer the Padawan Yoda once watched with cautious hope. He was something darker, stronger, faster, more dangerous. Their final exchange came in a moment of silence. Yoda leapt. Anakin met him midair. One last strike. Blue tore through green, and Master Yoda fell. The temple, already in ruin, seemed to mourn. Anakin stood over the fallen Jedi Master, chest heaving, breath sharp, his blade hissing softly in the night air. Yoda's final words were a whisper. Consumed you are by shadow. And then nothing. No more teachings. No more hope. Only silence. Anakin turned away. He didn't look back. The last true guardian of the Jedi was gone. And with him, the heart of the light. When Darth Sidious learned of the victory, he smiled. For now, no one remained to challenge the Sith. Anakin Skywalker, once the galaxy's last hope, had destroyed the very soul that tried to save it. And so, in the ashes of Coruscant, the galaxy shifted. The dark side had won a battle once thought impossible, and balance was broken. The moment Yoda's body fell still, the temple seemed to grow colder. Anakin Skywalker stood in the center of the Great Hall, his breath heavy, his lightsaber still humming faintly. The green blade that had once been the symbol of Yoda's wisdom and strength now lay extinguished beside its master. Shadows stretched long across the floor as the night deepened over Coruscant. Anakin felt the weight of what he had done, but it was not guilt, it was power. Every strike, every parry in that battle had shown him the truth he had long denied. The Jedi were weak, and weakness had no place in the galaxy he would help build. The duel had tested him in ways even Count Dooku never had. Yoda's speed, his mastery of the Force, his ancient wisdom, they had pushed Anakin to the very edge. But rage had carried him further than skill alone ever could. The dark side was no longer a whisper in his mind. It was a roaring storm, guiding his blade, fueling his strength, making him faster, stronger, unstoppable. As Anakin deactivated his saber, the silence inside the temple became absolute. No Yonglins hiding. No masters waiting to defend their order. No hope. Only him. And the future he would forge. Outside, the night air of Coruscant carried the faint hum of speeders far away, oblivious to the fate of the galaxy shifting in that moment. He walked slowly toward the temple steps, each footfall echoing like a drumbeat of victory. When he reached the entrance, the towering figure of Darth Sidious awaited him, draped in shadow. Their eyes met, and in that brief exchange, no words were needed. Palpatine had felt it through the Force, the death of Yoda. It was not merely the fall of a Jedi Master. It was the end of an era. Anakin bowed his head slightly, not out of submission but acknowledgement. He had proven himself beyond doubt. The galaxy would remember this day, though not the truth of it. History would paint Yoda's fall as inevitable. But Anakin knew. He had done what no Sith or Jedi before him could. He had slain the heart of the Jedi Order. The rain began to fall over Coruscant, streaking the city's endless lights with silver trails. Anakin Skywalker stood on the landing platform of the Jedi Temple, the dark clouds above rumbling like the Force itself was unsettled. The faint smell of smoke still clung to his robes, and the echo of his duel with Yoda replayed in his mind, not as a memory of struggle, but as a mark of triumph. Every movement, every moment of that fight had been proof of his transformation. He was no longer bound by the teachings of the Jedi Council, no longer restrained by the fear of what the dark side could make him. He had embraced it fully, and it had rewarded him. The temple behind him was now a tomb, a silent monument to a failed order. The great halls that once echoed with the laughter of younglings and the council of masters now lay in ruin. Anakin turned his gaze toward the cityscape, the horizon lined with spires of durasteel and glass, the heart of the galaxy beating beneath his feet. Somewhere out there, whispers of resistance still stirred, but they would fade in time. Without Yoda, without the wisdom and leadership that had held the Jedi together for centuries, those whispers would die into silence. A shuttle descended through the clouds, its engines cutting through the sound of distant thunder. It landed before Anakin, the ramp lowering slowly. From within, Darth Sidious emerged, his steps unhurried, his presence radiating cold satisfaction. He studied Anakin for a long moment, his yellow eyes glinting under the rain. Anakin did not kneel. He only met Palpatine's gaze, and in that silent exchange, the bond between master and apprentice deepened. There was no longer any doubt in Sidious's mind. Anakin Skywalker was the enforcer the Empire needed. The death of Yoda had sealed the galaxy's fate. Palpatine turned toward the shuttle, his voice low and commanding. "Come, Lord Vader. We have much to do." Anakin followed without hesitation, the rain washing over him like a silent baptism into his new life. The Jedi were gone, and the age of the Sith had truly begun. The shuttle rose from the temple platform, cutting through the heavy clouds as Coruscant shrank below. Inside, the dim light cast long shadows over the polished metal walls. Anakin Skywalker sat in silence, the hum of the engines filling the air like a low heartbeat. His lightsaber rested across his lap, the hilt still warm from the duel that had ended Yoda's life. For a moment, his eyes lingered on it, and he thought of how many times it had been drawn in the name of the Jedi. Now it served a new purpose. Across from him, Darth Sidious studied his apprentice with quiet satisfaction. The bond between them was no longer one of persuasion. It was now a pact sealed in blood. "You have done what no one else could," Sidious finally said, his voice smooth but edged with triumph. Anakin did not answer. He was still replaying Yoda's last moments, not with regret, but with a strange sense of inevitability. It was as if this was always meant to happen, as if the galaxy had been waiting for this very shift in power. Through the viewport, the darkened expanse of space opened before them. The stars shone cold and distant, each one a reminder of how vast the galaxy truly was, and how much of it would now kneel under Imperial rule. Anakin's thoughts drifted briefly to Padmé, wondering if she would understand why he had done this, why he had to. But he pushed the thought away. Emotions like that could weaken him. Sidious leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "With Yoda gone, there is no one left to rally the Jedi. You will hunt the survivors. You will ensure their light never rises again." Anakin met his gaze, his voice calm but unyielding. "It will be done." The shuttle began its descent toward the Imperial Palace, its engines roaring louder as the massive city world drew near once more. Anakin tightened his grip on his lightsaber, feeling its weight not as a burden, but as a promise. The galaxy was just a shape now, and nothing would stand in his way. The shuttle touched down at the Imperial Palace, its landing struts locking into place with a deep metallic thud. The ramp lowered, and Anakin Skywalker stepped into the grand, towering halls of the Emperor's new seat of power. Marble floors reflected the pale glow of overhead lights, and massive banners of the Empire hung from the ceiling like shadows draped across history. Darth Sidious walked beside him, the sound of their footsteps echoing through the chamber. The air here was colder, heavier, as if the very walls knew the galaxy had changed. Guards lined the corridor, their expressions hidden behind masks, but their postures shifted ever so slightly in the presence of the Emperor's apprentice. Anakin's eyes swept the room, his steps slow and deliberate. The old Republic symbols had been stripped away, replaced by the black and crimson emblems of Imperial rule. This was no longer a place for debate or diplomacy. It was a fortress for control. Sidious led him to a wide balcony that overlooked the endless expanse of Coruscant. From here, the city stretched beyond the horizon, a living, breathing machine of power and ambition. This, Sidious said softly, is the galaxy that will be remade in our image. Anakin stood beside him, silent, but his presence was unshaken. The dark side swirled around him, a constant current of strength and purpose. Below, the lights of the city glimmered like stars trapped beneath the clouds. It was beautiful in a way, cold, unyielding, unstoppable. Palpatine's voice lowered to a whisper. "You will be my hand in all things, Lord Vader. The galaxy will learn to fear your name." Anakin's gaze did not waver. Fear was not enough. He would build something that no one could challenge. Not the Jedi, not the rebellion, not even time itself. The death of Yoda had been only the beginning. There were still others to find, others to break. Anakin tightened his fist, the night wind brushing against his face. The age of a Jedi was gone, and his reign had only just begun. Night had fully fallen over Coruscant, the city lights burning like a million small suns against the darkness. Anakin Skywalker stood alone in the Emperor's private war room, a vast chamber filled with glowing star maps and the hum of deep machinery. The holographic projection of the galaxy rotated slowly before him, its countless systems marked with Imperial symbols. Every point of light was a world, every world a place that would soon bow to the Empire's will. The rain tapped lightly against the high windows, a soft rhythm that contrasted with the steel resolve in Anakin's mind. The battle with Yoda had proven something. He was beyond the limits of the Jedi. No master, no council, no ancient code could hold him now. He moved toward the projection, his gloved hand brushing over the sectors where Jedi survivors were rumored to hide. Each name, each location, was a thread he would pull until nothing remained. Behind him, the sound of slow footsteps echoed. Darth Sidious entered the room, his voice smooth and calculated. "Already planning your hunt, my apprentice?" Anakin didn't turn. "They won't escape me." Sidious stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the glowing map. "They will scatter. They will hide in shadows. But you will be the darkness that finds them." The words sank into Anakin like a vow. He was no longer fighting for the survival of an order. He was shaping the destiny of the galaxy. The dark side pulsed through him like a living force, urging him toward the next step. He thought of Yoda's final look, not as a victory to savor, but as a reminder that every opponent, no matter their strength, could fall. The Emperor placed a hand on his shoulder, his grip firm. "You are ready, Lord Vader. The galaxy will remember you not as a man, but as power itself." Anakin's eyes narrowed, his gaze locked on the farthest edges of the map. The hunt would begin soon, and when it did, there would be no mercy, no hesitation. Only the promise that no Jedi would ever rise again. The first mission came without delay. Anakin Skywalker stood aboard a sleek Imperial cruiser, the endless stars stretching before him in the black sea of space. The hum of the engines was steady, almost like a heartbeat, as the ship cut through hyperspace toward its target. Intelligence had reported a small group of Jedi hiding on the mid-rim world of Felucia. Once, he might have hesitated at the thought of hunting down those he once called allies. Now, there was no hesitation, only purpose. The memory of Yoda's fall still lingered in his mind, not as a source of doubt, but as proof that even the greatest could be defeated. If Yoda could fall, so could any Jedi. The crew gave him a wide berth as he walked the halls of the ship, his presence commanding silence. Whispers traveled through the ranks, stories of the Jedi Temple massacre, of the night the Grand Master was slain. Fear followed him, and he allowed it. Fear was power. As the ship dropped out of hyperspace, the lush, alien world of Felucia filled the viewport, its massive fungi towers glowing faintly under the planet's sunlight. Anakin's eyes narrowed. This place, with its vibrant life and strange beauty, was a reminder of the galaxy the Jedi once sought to protect. That era was gone. The ramp lowered, and he descended with a squad of clone troopers at his back, their armor bearing the new markings of the Empire. The air was thick and humid, carrying the scent of vegetation and damp soil. The Force whispered to him here, faint traces of those hiding nearby. He followed it like a predator tracking prey. Somewhere in the dense jungle, lightsabers would ignite, and the hunt would begin. Every step forward was another step away from the man he once was. He no longer fought for peace or balance. He fought for control. And when the Jedi of Felucia fell, the galaxy would feel the shadow of Anakin Skywalker grow even darker. The jungle of Felucia was alive with strange sounds. Insects hummed in the thick air, and distant calls of unseen creatures echoed between the towering fungi. Anakin Skywalker moved with precision, his black cloak brushing against the wet ground as his squad followed in silence. The Force was strong here, but it carried a ripple of fear, Jedi fear. It was close. He could feel them, their presence like faint lights in the darkness of his mind. He signaled the troopers to spread out, their armor shifting quietly as they took positions among the giant plants. A flicker of movement caught his eye, a flash of brown robes disappearing into the shadows. Without hesitation, Anakin ignited his lightsaber, its blue glow cutting through the green haze. The sound of another lightsaber followed, then another. 3 Jedi emerged from the foliage, their blades ready, their faces tense. For a heartbeat, there was stillness. Then the clash began. Anakin struck first, his blows heavy and relentless. 1 Jedi tried to flank him, only to be forced back by a swift, precise counter. The second met his strikes head-on, but could not match his speed. The third tried to defend the others, but a burst of Force energy sent them sprawling across the jungle floor. The fight was not long. Every movement was calculated, every strike meant to end the battle quickly. One by one, their defenses failed, their lightsabers falling silent in the mud. The air smelled of ozone and damp earth as the final Jedi collapsed, their strength spent. Anakin stood over them, his breath steady, his eyes cold. The dark side pulsed within him, stronger now than it had been even in the temple. He looked to the sky, the sunlight filtering through the fungi above, and felt nothing of the man he once was. The Jedi of Felucia were gone. Their light had been snuffed out, and somewhere, far away, the galaxy tilted further into shadow. The news of Yoda's death spread like wildfire through the galaxy, carried by whispers and rumors that slipped through the shadows. Jedi across star systems felt the tremor of loss and fear ripple through the Force. Many who had hidden in secret enclaves now faced a terrifying truth. Their greatest protector was gone. Obi-Wan Kenobi, once Anakin's master and friend, retreated deeper into exile on the desert world of Tatooine. The weight of his failure was heavy. Without Yoda, the Jedi Order was broken, fractured beyond repair. Rebellion leaders on planets like Alderaan and Mon Cala struggled to maintain hope. Bail Organa sent messages of resistance, but the absence of Yoda's wisdom left a void no council could fill. In the darkness, the Sith grew bolder. Darth Sidious tightened his grip on the Senate and the Empire. Anakin Skywalker, now fully embracing his identity as Darth Vader, was no longer just the Emperor's enforcer. He was a symbol of unstoppable power, a living nightmare for the Jedi. The galaxy felt his presence like a shadow looming over every star system. The remaining Jedi who dared to fight were hunted relentlessly. They could no longer count on guidance or training. Hope flickered, but it was dim. The Force itself seemed out of balance. Yet, even in the deepest shadow, a spark of resistance remained. Small bands of rebels and surviving Jedi clung to the promise that the light might one day return. But with Yoda's death, that promise was fragile. The galaxy watched, held in the silence of fear and uncertainty. Anakin's victory was complete. The Jedi were broken. The Sith ruled. And the future was darker than anyone could have imagined. The galaxy was changing, and Anakin Skywalker was at its center. With Yoda gone, the balance of the Force shifted dramatically, tipping far into darkness. Anakin embraced his role not just as Darth Vader, but as the living embodiment of the Empire's will. He moved through the corridors of power with a quiet confidence that chilled those who crossed his path. Gone was the conflicted young Jedi, struggling with his destiny. In his place stood a Sith Lord fully consumed by the dark side. His training had been ruthless, his missions merciless. Every Jedi survivor was a target, every rebel cell a threat to be extinguished. The rebellion tried to rise, but without the guidance of Yoda or the wisdom of the Jedi Council, their efforts often faltered. Anakin's presence alone was enough to strike fear into the hearts of those who dared resist. On the planet Mustafar, once the site of his greatest defeat, Anakin returned, not as a fallen Jedi, but as a conqueror. He commanded legions of stormtroopers, his very name a symbol of the Empire's reach. The galaxy seemed to shrink beneath his shadow. Even the stars, distant and cold, could not escape his influence. Yet beneath the armor and the power, a small part of Anakin's past lingered, hidden deep beneath the mask of Vader. It was a spark of light, faint but persistent. But without Yoda's teachings to guide him, without the hope of redemption, it remained buried. Anakin's fate was sealed, not as the savior of the galaxy, but as its dark ruler. The Sith had won, and the age of the Jedi was over. The stars watched silently as the galaxy fell into shadow, waiting for the day when light might rise again.